Hey everyone, welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
Melissa, are you stressed out?
In this moment or generally as
Just
a person?
in general?
Maybe. Why do you ask? Do I feel like I am?
Well, no, we were kind of like talking about stress. You sent me over an article about stress, which sometimes is like a leading indicator that you're stressed out. Like, hey, JJ, here's this random article about stress. Not that I'm stressed. But stress is a great topic. It's an interesting word to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, too, the timing of this conversation is also very poignant because everybody was really excited about 2022 being the reset. And I feel like it hasn't exactly panned out that way yet.
That is super true.
Yeah. And it's caused so much stress for people.
So let's start. Like, first, I want to hear like what your definition of stress is, because some people say like, oh, I'm stressed out. But as I feel like sometimes it's like people use it synonymously with like anxiety or worry. But to me, that's maybe part of stress. But what is your definition of stress?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess maybe some of it does kind of cross over. But I would say for me, what stress means to me is that there are things going on around me that I have more awareness about that cause me to have a reaction. Like I can start feeling my energy popping up. I start having a little more attention about something. I start feeling a little more unsettled. And then I think it continues. If you look at that as if you look at it kind of like as a spectrum, it's like it starts with stress and then it goes to worry and then it goes to anxiety. For me, I think it's probably the same for a lot of people and maybe slightly different for others. But that's what I think stress is, when something continually, pervasively pops up that causes me some sort of emotional reaction that I can't just naturally put down.
Okay.
How about you?
Yeah, mine's a little different. For me, stress is usually workload related. And it's like it's like a constant unsurmountable to-do list, right?
Oh,
to me,
really?
Stress is like, there's a lot of work to be done. I don't have time to get it all done. And it becomes like a weight on me, right? It feels like a weight, like that I can't get off. So sometimes it might be work related. Often it's actually work related.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might just be like, again, it's like kind of like work-ish kind of stuff, like family stuff, right? Like we have a lot to do, a lot to prepare for, like going on vacation or something at the cabin or I don't know what. But like, to me, it's just like, there's a lot of stuff happening and I don't have a lot of capacity or control to get it done. That to me is what causes stress.
You know, it's funny. You talked about the things that occur for you to feel stress. But the question you asked me was, what's your definition of stress? So that's really interesting, because then I started going to, well, that's interesting. So what causes me those reactions specifically? You know, I'm always the queen of theory until you go right in for a specific example, which always makes it more meaningful. But like you said, when your workload is really, really high, I'll tell you something. This is even funny. You know, being a entrepreneur and a solopreneur, I can also feel stress if my workload isn't high. I can feel stress if I just have one big thing that I have looming over me, and it may have nothing to do with work.
Yeah.
It may be a hard conversation that I have to have with my mother or something like that. But I share the opinion that it feels like a huge weight.
Yeah.
That's what I would actually call stress.
Yeah, like the physical, we're like, you were talking about a little bit how it feels. Like, where do you feel stress in your body? Like, what's your body cue that you are stressed?
Yeah. For me, it feels like a big weight on my chest, my upper chest, like right under my throat.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, it's like my shoulders are super tight. Like my muscles are just really tight.
You know, what's funny too, is as we've been working on the self-awareness journey now for a couple of years, here's what I have noticed. I'd be interested if you have this experience too, but because we've been working on these things for so long, we have both figured out, ways of being more aware, ways of being able to manage our emotions, ways of being able to manage our thoughts. And so when something comes up that's hard to deal with and I can't manage it, it makes me even more stressed.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I feel like somehow I must be failing. Somehow I must be going backwards a little bit.
That's like that's like you not meeting your own expectation and then getting even more stressed about it.
Exactly.
It's like a stress spiral.
A stress spiral. Yeah.
Well, so now we kind of know what stress looks like, what it feels like. Like, how does it actually affect you? I mean, we're talking about how it affects us, like physically and and kind of mentally, but like, how does that actually affect what your desired outcome in life is?
Yeah.
Right. Like, or like, why does stress even exist? Right. Like, what's its purpose? What is it trying to do? And how is it affecting like our actions and what we actually want out of life? Melissa and I are huge self-awareness nerds. We've been working on this stuff for a really long time, and we love talking about it and sharing it with all of you. We've actually brought all of the stuff we've made into an online course, and we think it's really great. The course starts by learning about yourself and how your mind-body connection works. It dives into your thoughts and feelings, and then helps you learn how to become your true, authentic self. Start your journey today. Head to theselfawarenessjourney.com to learn more and sign up. My example would be like, I have too much workload. I'm feeling stressed. Now that stress is causing me to actually not get as much work done.
Oh, I got it. I hear what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah. You know what's funny for me is I feel like I'm in this strange place of development, personal development and personal growth, in which I've always been such a high achiever, and I'm certain will always be a high achiever, but I'm trying to get over that a little bit. And I'm trying to not have my ability to feel good be based on my ability to produce. Right. So that's why stress is such an important topic for me, I think, right now, because I don't want to only feel good when I'm getting 100 things done, or I don't want to feel good after I've just shipped something that I've been working on, or I want to be able to feel good no matter what. And when I can't have more control over that for some reason, I don't like that feeling at all. It makes me uptight. It makes me start looking at things in ways that aren't helpful towards that way of being.
All right. Interesting. But as a professional procrastinator, like, stress is a key part of my like output.
No, it's not. Nope.
Yeah, totally.
No.
I'll have an insurmountable amount of work to do. The stress will kick in, and then that will be like, it'll build and build to a point where then the amount of output is huge. Like, the stress causes me to get over the mountain. Yep.
That sounds like a you problem.
I'm just trying to like find any little avenue that says like stress isn't all bad, right? Like,
yeah. Okay.
Like that's what I mean,
yeah.
I'm actually just, I'm not actually joking. I'm actually trying to like think through like,
yeah,
like there is probably a way that we can use the feeling of stress to understand what's happening, lean into it, and get through it faster.
I totally agree with you. Yeah.
And so use it for good, not just to sort of like paralyze us.
Yeah. And what's the teeter-totter effect to that? What is on the side of what's good for you or good for me? Because it's different for everybody.
Yep.
And then when do you topple over the hill or fall off the teeter? You remember how scary did you have teeter-totters when you were little?
All I'm thinking is like, there's a teeter-totter of like JJ's best, most creative work on one side and a heart attack on the other side.
I was picturing you on
not
the
to
top
be dramatic.
Didn't you ever teeter-totter with someone you didn't trust and they would get down on the bottom and then you'd be scared?
And then they jump off.
They'd jump off?
Oh. Talk about stress.
Well, I think you've always used stress or traditionally you've used stress as a way to produce output. And that goes a little in hand with the procrastination. Like we've talked about that before. And to a great degree, I think that it has served you a lot. However, I've also been along for the ride when it hasn't served you at all. It's cost you so much angst.
Let's forget about those parts, though.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's right. We're talking about the positive impact of stress.
Conveniently forget about that side. Okay, my next question. I have this whole list of questions.
Yeah, what the heck?
Sorry, I
sent you an article. I just thought it would be...
I took a bunch of notes.
Okay.
So the other thing that I want to talk about with stress is like how it affects others, right? Because the thing I've noticed is when I'm carrying a lot of stress, which like you said, is most likely a me problem. When I go interact with other people with
now
this,
I feel guilty that I said that.
That's totally true. When I go interact with people and I'm carrying around this like giant stress ball.
Yeah,
right?
like Atlas.
Right. My interactions with other people generally don't go that well.
Yeah.
That would be my personal observation. But
or you
that's
maybe
just
not
like
even notice.
Well, it's like an energy thing, right? I'm like coming into things with just like a not great energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and we talk about being in partnership with other people and stuff like that. But I really think that having the awareness of how it impacts us internally and how it feels, having a really crystal clear understanding of how it feels in our body, how it feels in our minds, how the emotions feel, and recognizing, it's just like there's a continuum. Like if you look on a scale of 0 to 10, usually we're in our scalloped waves and not in our tsunami waves of issues when we're in that, 4 to 6, 3 to 7 category, right? But understanding our feelings about when it gets amped up beyond that, I think is really critical because it gives us an ability to interact with ourselves and have a different way of validating ourselves, have a different way of not being as impacted by our choices that we've made and just make a different decision. It's just like make a different decision.
Yeah. So then we'll be able to interact with people in a much better way.
Yeah. And
right?
I would almost frame this as we're already doing that sometimes. Like sometimes I think, and I've noticed this in coaching recently a lot, is that, as the first of the year comes around, everybody wants to have all these newfound, like, here are my quote resolutions. And I think, just talking about how we attract things to ourselves, a lot of times if we say we want something, it's so far away from us that it's in a future state. So we're constantly kicking it down the road like, oh, someday I want this. Someday I want this. Well, in the universe just hears someday, right? But I think like a lot of the stuff of having these discussions with the stress is we are in partnership with ourselves often. And we often will be making these choices that are helpful for us. But every once in a while, we just don't. Or for a period of for a period of time, it just sucks.
Yeah.
We make things worse and worse and worse. It's like a runaway train.
Right. Like around the, just whatever, like the first work day of the year.
Yeah.
Remember I sent you that text about my team?
Yes, you did. Would you like to share it or no?
Yeah. It's like everybody, everybody was like so amped up for 2022 to start. And they had such big grand plans for the year that on January 3rd, Monday, the first day of the year, everyone's crazy stressed out. And I heard like 5 times, JJ, I've got so much work to do. We're so behind. And I'm like, it's the first day. Like, calm down. Like, it's going to be okay.
Right.
But that's just that expectation thing, right? I can't a bunch of energy, right? A bunch of expectations, a bunch of wanting to get a bunch of work done, seeing a big pile of work, and then just getting instantly stressed out about it.
Right. Yeah. Right.
As a whole organization.
I wonder if, I'm curious if we have different types of stress about work and production versus the stress of family dynamics that we're so maybe not as aware of because it's been such a part of our DNA. Don't you wonder about that? Like your conscious awareness of your stress versus your unconscious awareness of your stress. Like it's easy to tie stress to timelined objects like projects or work. But what if there isn't a timeline and it's just a way? It's just how part of your life. Like if you have a child or you have a parent or you have an uncle that constantly causes a ruckus in the family structure, like that kind of stress is different.
Well, let me put it a bit more bottom shelf, like financial stress.
Yeah.
Like you have constant financial stress, paycheck to paycheck, every week. So every week you're just trying to just make it, right? That's like an undercurrent. That's a constant of level of stress.
Right.
So what you're kind of asking is, or what I'm hearing a little bit is like, do some people live with a higher kind of like baseline amount of stress that then they just kind of become numb to?
Yeah. It's like their threshold
that's
of pain.
Their sea level, right? Whereas like maybe my sea level is lower. My stress, my baseline stress level is lower, right?
Yeah.
And then when you're interacting with people, connecting with them in the right way, like knowing where their baseline stress level is important because things that stress them out wouldn't stress you out.
Right. What I just feel compelled to say in this conversation right now is, don't you just wish we would give each other more grace? Like you see people in stress and there's a lot of things to be stressed about in this world today. Don't you just wish we would have more grace and say, I don't know what's going on with that person, but I'm not going to take this personally. I'm going to wish that person goodwill. I'm going to send them good vibes.
Yeah.
A friend of mine on Facebook yesterday put a picture of a UPS box stacked on top of their mailbox. And he said, okay, we had to remove our mailbox because we kept having someone drive by and use a baseball bat on it. And they live in kind of a rural area. And, but they're very militant about keeping a super clean driveway and a turnaround spot and everything else like that for deliveries. Well, recently the UPS guy has been stacking it on this big mailbox out on the highway. And he was furious. So he put something on Facebook, and he's a really good guy. So he put something on Facebook like, I am so mad. You can't get a number for UPS. You can't do anything, blah, 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 blah. What should I do? Okay. So then the comments just started flying and flying. Right. And so then I normally don't engage at all. But this time I said, why don't you just make a really nice sign that said, we would love to have deliveries at our front door and we keep the driveway clean for you. And he
seems simple.
Yeah. And he responded, well, that is a very good idea, but I wasn't thinking of that tone. And then he made a red mad face.
Yeah.
So my response was, well, just remember, karma is whatever you put out comes back to you 1,000 times over. So you might as well choose good.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And then it became a joke, right? And then we kind of were joking about it. But it's true though. Like, gosh, I wish we could give people grace in stress times because it's so stressful for people right now.
Well, when you're talking about that, I was talking about like, well, I asked you how my stress affects other people, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking about the other side when someone is stressed out and they're like kind of coming to me.
Yeah.
What do I do? That's what you're talking about. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
When a stressed out energy is coming at me.
Yeah. What do you do?
Oh my God. Just like I leap off to the side. I duck and cover.
No, you
try to avoid it. Honestly, sometimes I do.
Leap. Nice word.
I try to hide. No, all joking aside, there is sometimes I have a reaction where there is someone who's stressed out and even someone that I care about. And I'm just like, I can't take that on right now.
Yeah.
Like I have a baseline amount of stress that like, or maybe I'm carrying some stress at that moment too. And it's like, I can't take on your stress too. Like I can't do it. Right.
Right.
So sometimes I do that. I mean, but a lot of times I just try to help someone talk through it.
Yeah.
Right. There's an interesting thing that happens, with stress, and, even you can push it into a little bit of like traumatic or at least dramatic, situations where we have a tendency to like not want to talk about them or avoid them.
Yeah.
And say things like, oh no, it'll get better. Or like, tomorrow will be a better day. It's going to be okay. And try to like downplay it.
Yeah.
I've found that like leaning into it is more effective in helping someone get through it.
Yeah.
Like, tell me again why you're stressed out, and then just like talk about it and then go back to it. It's just like almost like repetition on the thing that's stressing you out or that you're anxious about or whatever's causing that emotion. Like going back over it actually diffuses it. Avoiding it seems to like
amp it up more.
Yeah,
it gives it more flame.
Yeah,
I agree. And I think the other thing too that I find that I appreciate when someone does for me when I'm really stressed out, and this is kind of something that I do too, is that when someone starts to talk about feeling really stressed out, they may not use even the word, they may just launch into a story about a particular topic that's got them really wound tight. And just, again, listening, that's exactly right. But then also asking, is this like asking them more questions so that they can start to uncover a little bit of their own recognition that they're spinning, right? So like are you also giving the positive equal time? Like you're really focusing on all the bad parts of this, but what are some of the other ways that you could be thinking about this to help you feel better? And are you asking yourself the right questions about this? Because I think asking some good questions in that moment allows you to engage with them, but not feel responsible. Because it's the difference between responsibility and respondability. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another way I would phrase that too is like, what are the things that are in your control and what's not in your control, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stress that happens around things that are not in our control.
Precisely. Yeah.
So just really like thinking about the stress, what's the cause of it, trying to get a little bit deeper, and then figuring out like, can I control this in any way?
Right. Yeah, because I
figure out which parts you can control. Right. And like you said, a lot of the time, the parts we can control is how we're responding to the thing we can't control.
Right. Well, and we forget that we can't control it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are like really good at polishing control so it doesn't look like you're trying to control, but you really are. And when I say some people, I'm raising my hand right now. That's me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we do all have really funny little ways of managing stress. You know, we have funny little ways of managing stress, and I think it's worthy of some time to think about that. I really think it's a worthy time, especially now, this new year. And, you know, we've got 11 months left of the year or whatever we've got left.
Yeah.
And
we talked about how stress feels, like how as we develop self-awareness, we can feel it in our body and we kind of get those like cues earlier. But on the other side, you can see your behavior, right? Your actions and what you're doing to compensate for the stress or deal with the stress.
Yeah.
What are some things you do to deal with stress that aren't particularly self-aware and reflective and all those like great things we've been talking, like what's the acting out part of it you do?
And I think that's a good question to ask people. What is the acting out part? Because what I usually do is I try to control more.
Oh, that's funny, right? When we just talked about how the opposite is the solution.
Yeah, exactly. It's the opposite. And the other thing is too, is I would say this, is while you're in your investigative state, like if you're just thinking about this as we're talking right now, and all of a sudden all these things start pinging for you, like, oh, I do this, I do that, I think this, I feel that. It is very easy to bring other people that you love into this equation and start diagnosing what they do when they feel stress. And I would highly encourage you to not try to fix them.
Yeah.
Try to fix them as a way to make yourself feel better, like you're handling it.
So just to run down some of those things, like what are they? Like for me, it's like avoidance, like avoid doing things, right? Do things like go watch more TV or go play tennis or go like entertain myself, right? That's an avoidance technique, right? Maybe drinking more, right?
Yeah.
Like some other self-destructive behaviors.
Yeah. Right.
Like probably like my temper, or, you know, like I get a shorter fuse. Like I just don't want to deal with, you know, anything.
Become more dismissive. Like I become a bit more dismissive sometimes too, for sure. Yeah, that's good. And I would say, you know, the other thing that I do, I just realized this. I actually go into this feeling of guilt. So if I have a strong emotional reaction that I don't like, whatever it is, then I feel guilty. Why can't I control my emotions more? Why do I have to be stressed out? I already know that none of this matters anyway. So why can't I stop?
Yeah.
So I would say that's part of what I do too, is us disassociate into a feeling of guilt instead of just managing that. Hey, you know what? The day-to-day pressures right now are really, really high. And I feel stressed out, and that's okay. Yeah. You know, just, you know, self-compassion.
For the easy way is to like I said, like recognize those behaviors and then realize that you're stressed out. Like, oh, I'm doing all of those things that are the acting out of me being stressed out. Cool. I'm stressed out. Like, now let's dive into why, what can I control, and give ourselves grace about it.
And other people too. It's hard right now. We need to love people up and not be hard on people.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.